So I will call the Temple City regular City Council meeting to order for June 1st to order. Pursuant to Section 3 of the Executive Order issued by Governor Newsom, on March 2020, cities allowed to hold City Council meetings via teleconferencing, and members of the public can observe and address the meeting telephonically or electronically. Listen to the meeting either telephonically, please call 1-669-900-6833, meeting ID 811-1858-2182, passcode 788155, or through the city's live webcast on YouTube. Connect with TC. At this time, Madam Clerk, please roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez?
Here.
Councilmember Mann?
Here.
Councilmember Vizcarra?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist?
Here.
Mayor Yu?
I'm here. For those calling in, your audio will be unmuted during public comments and when public comments open during agendized item discussion. You can also email your request to speak to cityclerk@templestate.us right now and indicate on the subject line the item you wish to provide comment. At this time is invocation. Is Mr. Jambazian online?
Mayor, I don't see his name, but he did confirm. Would you like to? Oh, he's online.
I'm here,
Okay.
Mayor.
All right, Mr. Jambazian. So tonight's invocation will be provided by Mr. Jerry Jambazian, owner of Wonder Cleaners and Draperies, located at 9136 East Las Tunas Drive, Temple City. And thank you, Mr. Jambazian. You may begin.
Thank you, Mayor. Will you bow your head as I pray? Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members and the various levels, excuse me, of city officials, and in particular for those that protect and serve us. Father, as the news today once again displays the depravity of man in wanting to do harm to those that only want to help us. Heavenly Father, I pray that you would soften the hearts of people that would want to do harm to innocent people. We pray for the families of San Bernardino Sheriff Sergeant Dominic Vaca and the LA County firefighter who was killed in Agua Dulce today. I pray for the agenda set before you today. Please give an assurance of what would please you, excuse me, and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Temple City. Father, I continue to pray for those that protect us at all levels, including those deputies from Temple Station and firefighters from Station 47. As we see an improvement in the effects of COVID-19, we continue to pray for an end to this tragic pandemic. We ask this all in your name and for your glory. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Jambazian. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the
to
flag
the flag
of the United States of America
and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic for which
for
it
which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice for all.
justice for all.
Please be seated. Next item is ceremonial matters. There is none. Next item is public comment, an item not listed on the agenda. The city council will now hear public comments regarding items not listed on the agenda. The procedure to address the city council highlighted on the first page of this agenda. This section is limited to 30 minutes total. For those calling in, your audio will now be unmuted. Please say your name so that you can be added to the speakers list. To avoid callers from speaking over each other, we will call your name to speak. Do we have any callers tonight?
Mayor, we don't have any callers for the public comment, but I do have one announcement email.
Okay, Madam Clerk, could you please read it? I believe that's from the library, our librarian.
Yes, sir. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, you and City Council. The Temple City Library would like to reach out and offer our services and reaffirm our commitment to providing useful resources to the community. We'd like to highlight the following upcoming updates. Spring and Summer Discovery Program. Register for the LA County's reading program and logbooks you've read and activities you've completed. Completing the monthly activity log, you will receive incentives and enter into monthly prize drawings. The Discovery Program is for all ages. We encourage the whole family to participate. Outdoor programs. We're thrilled to welcome customers to a new outdoor program series. Starting June 1st through the end of August, children, teens, and caregivers can take part in art, craft activities, and enjoy performances outside our library. Outdoor programs are held on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. for preschool children and 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. for children and teens. Registration is required, so be sure to register in advance using our online calendar or by calling the library. Library reopening. We are excited to announce that we are reopening to provide select in-person services to our community starting Tuesday, June 8th. Sidewalk services will continue to be offered as well. The following services are available to customers: browsing the collection and checking out items, public computers, up to 1 hour per customer, printing, whole pickup, brief reference interaction to assist in finding material or information, and free Wi-Fi. For more information, please visit the county library's website, https://lacountylibrary.org, or call us at 626-285-2136. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Ms. Jean, for your comments. We're looking forward to the library's reopening. Any other email comments, Madam Clerk?
No, Mayor, but we do have one caller. May I unmute their microphone to see if they'd like to speak?
Yes, please. Caller, please say your name, and you may begin.
Mayor, I have sent a request for the caller to unmute her microphone at the left.
Hello, my name is Lynn McKenzie. I actually would like to comment on agenda item 10A, please. So not yet.
Oh, okay. I guess we'll be calling on you when the item begins. So hold on. If there are no more phone calls or email comments, I will close public comments. So next item is consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended unless removed for further discussions. If members of the City Council or persons in the audience wish to discuss any matters listed on the consent calendar, please address them at this time. So, Madam Clerk, are there any email requests to speak?
No, sir, not at this time.
And then for those calling in, we'll now mute your phone. In order to avoid callers from speaking over each other, please state your name so that you can be added to the public comments list. Are there any callers? Okay, if not, I'll close public comments. I'm ready for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Mayor, you would make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Oh, it's moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Chavez,
Yes.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Vizcarra,
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist,
Yes.
Mayor Yu.
Yes. So the consent calendar has been approved. And next item is public hearing. There is none. Unfinished business, there is none. And before we move on to the next item, new business, I need to make an announcement. As many of you know, I am the Assistant Deputy Director of the Public Works Department for the county. In this role, I'm an officer of the county, and also in my line of work, I've oversaw many projects, overseen many projects involving the district attorney's office, including the construction of the Hall of Justice project, including the DA's office, by the way. And currently, and also in the past, I have been involved in many projects involving the Sheriff's Department, Probation Department. I have current projects at sheriff stations and also detention system. The item coming up deals with the city taking position on the activities on another officer of the county, and specifically the head of a department for which I have done significant amount of work. I have consulted with the city attorney, and while there is not a statutory conflict of interest under the Political Reform Act or any direct conflict under the FPPC regulations, it was concluded that there is a common law conflict of interest in light of my status as an officer of the county. Because of this, I'm going to recuse myself from this item. I will turn off my camera and mute my phone and microphone, and will only return them back on once the item is completed. And I will turn over the gavel to the Mayor Pro Tem for this item. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I will be going off right now.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we are going to item 10, new business, to discuss and consider adoption of a resolution expressing a vote of no confidence in Los Angeles County District with Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon. The City Council is requested to discuss the attached resolution and the issues presented. And our city manager is going to lead this discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Just for the record, Mayor Yu's camera is off and his microphone is muted and will be for the duration of this item as stated prior. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, in the last few weeks, several Los Angeles County cities, including several tonight, are considering expressing a no confidence in the Los Angeles District Attorney. The District Attorney is an elected county official established under the government code and is essentially responsible for the criminal prosecution of violations of state law and set in county ordinances that occur within the county. The 78 out of 88 cities throughout the county of Los Angeles, including Temple City, utilize the county DA's services. The county DA is legally responsible for executing all of the laws that the state legislature and the county enacts, and is responsible for overseas investigations and apprehension and prosecution of courts of laws in the court. The current DA was elected in November 3rd, 2020. Since this time, there has been 9 special directives concerning criminal prosecutions. We won't go through all those tonight. The 3 that are mentioned in the resolution specifically deal more with what is concern related to crimes in Temple City. some of the what's been expressed by other cities and what has been expressed in general is that these directives have exceeded the scope and statutory authority that the DA currently has. It is argued that the three directives, not all 9, but all the 3 directives noted both in the staff report and in the resolution are of particular interest to concerns of quality of life, crimes, and activities in the city. One, SD 2006 pretrial release policy, which eliminates cash bail for misdemeanor, nonviolent felonies, and non-serious felonies. Part of that concern is that with the type of activities that a quality of life type of crimes that happen in the city, that if there's not some level of deterrent for that type of activity, that there is a concern that may be expressed that those may perpetuate. The other is the misdemeanor case management. Many misdemeanors have been declined or dismissed before arraignment, and without condition, with some exceptions that have been modified over time as well. With the sentencing enhancements have been modified over time. But there are several that are listed in the staff report that are of concern and related to the case management of misdemeanors. And essentially what that means is how far the DA is going once a case is filed by, in our case, the Sheriff's Department to the DA's office. And those are listed: drinking in public, influence of a controlled substance, certain criminal offense, disturbing the peace, trespassing. The third special directive that is of concern specifically more to Temple City in terms of, again, quality of life type of issues is the sentencing enhancements. Now that has been adjusted. The original was a little bit more broad and more blanket, but it essentially says that cases shall not be filed or shall be withdrawn with any prior strikes, the 3 strikes law prior, the STEP Act enhancements, relation to violation of bail and other types of allegations. This special directive was later amended to state that they may pursue allegations at enhancements and or alternative sentencing schemes related to hate crimes, elder abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, human trafficking, and other financial crimes. That summarizes where the information presented to you tonight for the council's consideration. Myself or the city attorney will be here for any questions. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Okay, we are going to go and see if we have any council questions. Let's see, why don't we start with Council Member Vizcarra?
I don't have any particular questions. I approve of this action, and I think we're doing it we're exercising appropriate judgment as it applies to our city. So that's about it.
Councilmember Mann?
Councilmember Mann, but before you go, and I obviously respect all of you very much, but we do have some callers who may want to weigh in. So before you give your opinion on whether we should move forward or not, just keep it to questions right now so that we can let the public speak before we reach any conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez?
Thank you. And I don't know if either staff or maybe our city attorney can answer this, because I know our city attorney had somewhat part in preparing this report. Was any research done on the prior use of special directives by the DA's office?
No, sir.
Okay, so we have no information on prior DAs using special directives as part of their job. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Greg, are you aware of any
use of special directives by any DA that came prior to Mr. Gascon?
I am aware, sir, that it is a tool that DAs can use to give guidance, policy guidance to the assistant DAs working for them. I did not research anything that had been done under Mr. Gascon's predecessor or previous recent DAs.
So this is not something that's extraordinary to Mr. Gascon. The special directives issue has been around quite a long time, correct?
Correct. As a
policy
functional matter, this is something that is done by people in his position. What is before you is obviously the effect of 3 of those directives on quality of life issues in Temple City, not the mere fact that he's using this tool.
Right. And was any research done to present arguments against a vote of no confidence? Any research on any opposition to the vote of no confidence? And the reason I ask that question is that traditionally when we have an item before us, we are given pretty much pluses and minuses so that we can have pretty intelligent discussion about what effect it may or may not have on our particular city. And I was wondering if anyone from staff or our city attorney's office can share any arguments against the vote of no confidence.
There's nothing in the staff report, but
No, I know that. That's obvious.
But related to some of the reasonings, maybe not for these exclusively, but there is a Mr. Gascon ran on a certain platform, and I believe he believes this is some of the platform that he ran on related to criminal justice adjustments in the criminal justice system. And so I believe from their perspective and his supporters' perspective, these are the enactment of some of those.
I would add to that, that was the first thing I was going to say, that these carry out policies that led people to want to elect him. The second item, another rationale for not adopting a resolution tonight would be that there are other means by which interested people can challenge the special directives. In fact, one set of assistant DAs, deputy DAs, has actually challenged one of the special directives, and a judge in downtown Los Angeles has put that one on hold for right now, and that being specifically the 3 strikes directive. Mr. Gascon has not repealed the directive, but and he is appealing the court's ruling, but he's not enforcing it right now because the court said that a voter-approved initiative like the 3 strikes law cannot be undone by a special directive. So that would be another reason, sir, that you would consider not taking action tonight, because there are other avenues for people wishing to challenge Mr. Gascon to do so.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions either. So we are going to open public comment, and we're going to ask our city clerk if we have any email public comments.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist, I have over 15 email public comments. If it's okay with you, I'm going to read the email public comments and later have Deputy City Clerk Nunes man the phone lines for public comments in case there's more email that comes in.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the first email comes from Carrie Chan. First of all, thank you for serving the Temple City community and putting this issue on tonight's agenda. Why so many city officials across LA County voted no confidence in him? This is because he disregarded to the rule of law and put criminals as a priority before the law-obeying residents in Los Angeles County. He ignores crime victims and their families and in the interest of public safety. Vote yes in expressing no vote confidence in George Gascon. Thank you. Second email coming from Mark Tang. As a resident of Temple City, I'm happy that the City Council of Temple City is considering a vote of no confidence in District Attorney George Gascon in today's agenda. His policies destroy the public safety of our city. I urge all the City Council members to vote no confidence in him. Third email from Joyce Tang. Please vote no confidence in District Attorney George Gascon. His policy are destroying our city public safety law and uptick of violent felonies in our city. Number 4 from Lisa Tao. Dear City Council, there is an ongoing effort to recall the District Attorney George Gascon by the people of Los Angeles County. Gascon's new policies treat career and repeat violent offenders as if they had never committed a crime. Ignoring public safety laws has caused an uptick of violence crime across the Los Angeles County. Please consider a vote of no confidence in Gascon. The 5th email comes from Paul. Dear Temple City Council, we want to express our support to affirm a vote of no confidence in LA County District Attorney George Gascon. Since the day he swore in, he has abandoned crime victims and their families by disregarding the rule of laws and weakened lawful sentencing guidelines for major severe crimes. His pro-criminal directives will increase crime rate and adversely impact the safety of the citizens. We need someone who is tough on crime, and please affirm a vote of no confidence in George Gascon. Thank you for all your dedicated service to our community. Next one is from, Next one from Diana Young. As a concerned resident of Temple City, I urge City Council to vote no confidence in DA Gascon. The policies and directives implemented by Gascon adversely affect the public safety in Temple City. These policies abandon our most vulnerable victims and survivors. Hate crimes, child abuse, gang violence, and violence against the LGBTQ plus community will no longer be enhancement sentence. Special circumstances in any cases are disallowed. Gascon implemented a zero bail against our voter approved initiative in 2020 for all misdemeanors, nonviolent felonies, child abuse, and domestic violence, even if they are repeat offenders. Releasing violent criminals from prison early into our communities will not result in less crime. No victim or survivors would want this. It is up to our City Council to prevent this kind of irrational behavior and save our city. We need to take a stand and be the voice and support victims, family, children, and elderly members of our community, young family. The next email, City Council of Temple City. I strongly suggest you vote no confidence in DA George Gascon. He does not enforce our existing laws in violation of the rights of our citizens. A crime wave like never before is enveloping our county. Please vote no confidence. Steve Tyre, CPA, Temple City resident since 1978. Our next email, I have lived in Temple City for 53 years and I support the vote of no confidence for Mr. Gascon. This is Judith Gunther. Our next email comes from Carrie Marmolejo. I vote for Jackie Lacey. All I have for Gascon is a no confidence vote. Get him out. Thank you. Our next email comes from Lucy Liu. Thank you for joining the multiple LA County cities and taking a stand on the policy of the current Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon by making this an agenda item for discussion. I strongly urge you to please vote no confidence against him and his desire to help the criminals instead of the victims. Although he is an elected official and this vote of no confidence does not mean it will change that fact, it still sends him a strong message that he is on the wrong track. As many people know, he co-authored Prop 47, which increased the petty theft threshold from $400 to $950 and dropped numerous drug-related offenses from felonies to misdemeanor. It was dubbed the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act and misled many California voters. including me, and I have been sorely regretful of my ignorance ever since. Now we are facing the possible early release of 70,000 plus violent offenders from state prisoners as a result of Prop 57. As of May 28, 3/4 of California's district attorneys have banded together to sue against this newly enacted state law. Of course, Gascon is not one of them and has expressed publicly that he will not join because he is in support of this new law. Recall against Gascon is now taking place and give LA County residents a chance to fix this wrong. In the meantime, we need city officials to voice their concerns and let Gascon know that public safety is and should always be the #1 priority. Reducing the penalty for crimes and letting prisoners off the hook is not pro-public safety. Thank you. Next email from Mr. Richard Dean Bolander and Glad Bolander. We understand that at tonight's council meeting, the council will discuss a vote of no confidence for the newly elected DA, George Gascon. We have faith that the City Council of Temple City will have enough foresight to see that the DA is not supporting us citizens, but favoring the criminal element. We want to encourage the City of Temple City to join in with the other cities in LA County who have voted no confidence in District Attorney Gascon. He needs to be recalled as soon as possible before he can cause more damage. Please note our support of the no confidence vote. Our next email comes from Steve Cooley. As the 3 times elected district attorney of LA County, 2000 to 2012, and as a member of the office from 1973 to 2012, I know something about that once fine office and its current district attorney, George Gascon. Special directives he issued upon his swearing in and his subsequent policy decisions have had a devastating effect on the dedicated employees of the district attorney's office, law enforcement officers, and others who value public safety. Gascon has abandoned victims, especially next of kin, of murder victims in the courtroom and at parole hearings. Los Angeles County cities without their own city prosecutors cannot have a whole array of misdemeanor crimes that relate to keeping the peace and quality of life file because of Gascon's edicts. I could go on and on about why Gascon is worthy of being recalled, but I realize the council's time is valuable and others can also speak in support of the motion to vote no confidence in Gascon as DA. Join 15 other Los Angeles County cities that have already voted no confidence in Gascon as DA. Temple City will be joined by many others tonight and in the future in the no confidence in the Gascon movement. The next email comes from Whitney Wang. I am Bung Lan Lu, a Temple City resident. I'm a Temple City resident. First, I want to say thank you to our mayor and all other council members for the wonderful job you have done for our city, especially in recent years. So many terrible things happening all over the California. For example, our bad neighbor city, Arcadia and El Monte, our Temple City people could have peaceful mind and life, all because of your wonderful leadership for our city. Temple City people are so fortunate to have you all. Early this year or end of last year, I was attending an Arcadia council meeting. I heard one of Arcadia residents confronted their council members. Temple City council members are fighting bad things to protect their people. Why our council members are spending so much of our money to sue our own residents? As a Temple City resident, I was so proud of our council. Second, I want to say please vote no confidence in LA District Attorney George Gascon. He has abandoned crime victims and their families. Gascon has disregarded the rule of law and weakened lawful sentencing requirement for the most violent criminals. His new policies treat career and repeat violent criminals as if they had never committed a crime. He is not a legislator, but he acts like a legislator, changed laws and rules. What he did is extremely illegal. He is a criminal himself. His agenda is destroying LA like he did in San Francisco. He has a mission to destroy LA County. We must stop him from destroying our community. Please vote no confidence in him. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening. Our next email, my name is M. Christina Mondino Hung. I'm a resident of Temple City. I would like you to consider a vote of no confidence against LA County District Attorney George Gascon. His policies and directives are endangering public safety, and what he is doing to our county is not what he promised the people of LA County during his campaign. I'm not only a concerned resident, but also an employee of Superior Court of California, Los Angeles County, and have been seeing the appalling consequences of his directives. He is no longer allowing his deputy district attorney to file a petition to fitness up juveniles that commit murders, rapes, assaults, etc. Those cases are being handled in juvenile court. The juveniles that are committing these serious and violent crimes are getting a slap on the wrist and let back into the community to further victimize more people. Eventually, gang members will be recruiting more young adults to commit their violent crimes because of the light sentences that they will be receiving. For example, a juvenile defendant in Compton who committed 2 gang-related murders was sentenced to 18 months in state prison early January 2021. He was released and sent home, time served. The Office of District Attorney did not reach out to the victim's family to inform them of the possible disposition, and to the state District Attorney Gascon has refused to meet with them. His directives also indicated that the DA office will no longer prosecute special allegations, strikes, prior gang allegations, etc. Our once judge, Chalfant, Chalfant, ruled that he had to file said allegations. He again found a loophole. At the preliminary hearings, the deputy district attorneys are not calling in gang experts to testify. Without that testimony, the court will have no alternative but to dismiss said gang allegations. Just because an allegation is on the original filing document, it does not mean that the defendant will be sentenced to all of them. It's just a roadmap of theirs, let's just say their criminal record, a career. He has dismantled the gang unit. Many communities are affected by gang violence more than others. This unit has a huge caseload of complex gang cases, and now the unit is practically non-existent. The gang members have caught on. They are committing crimes in full force in the low-income communities without consequences. Soon they will infiltrate our other communities. They all know that DA Gascon will not persecute them to the maximum penalties. Last week, gang member who have been charged with attempted murder pleaded out to 4 years in state prison. He pleaded to a lesser charge and practically have time served. Is this justice? Are our communities safe? Mayor, there's still 2 to 3 paragraphs. Did you want me to finish?
I think we have the good enough
Okay.
explanation of what the gentleman is filling.
Okay, and I also have one more email here. Hi, Temple City Mayor. I hope this email finds you, your family, and coworkers are well. I'm so thankful for what you did for Temple City. Regarding agenda item 10A in the Temple City Council meeting on June 1st, 2021 at 7:30 p.m., I vote no confidence in LA County District Attorney George Gascon. And that ends the email public comment, Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, we move to, let me see here. Okay, so we are going to close public comment and
I believe
move.
there was a speaker earlier on the
Yes.
line who wanted to speak.
If it's
Okay.
okay, Julian is going to unmute the caller's audio.
I can't talk right now. Hello?
I can hear you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So yes, I would like to speak on agenda item 10A. And I thank the council members for allowing me to speak. So my name is Lexine Lynn McKenzie. My family has lived in Temple City for almost 16 years now, and I am an alumnus of Temple City High School as well. In my time since I graduated from high school, I've spent many of those years working with the communities that I've lived in various forms through volunteering and nonprofit work. And I'd like to state my strong opposition to the agenda item. I understand many of the community members' concerns about safety and crime, and I think there has been a very particular narrative pushed, and based on that, I can really empathize with this concern for people's safety, their concern for their families, and I think that is a natural human instinct. But at the same time, I'd like to turn to one of the things I learned in AP Stats at Temple City High School. Correlation does not equal causation. And I'd just like to highlight that, we have as a society tried this tough on crime rhetoric over and over again. And the statistics just simply do not bear out the effectiveness of this strategy. I could cite countless studies that show no correlation between increases in incarceration and decreases in crime rate. In fact, the only thing that increased incarceration does, for the most part, is raise taxpayer costs. And I'd like to point out that, we think of those as default and those are hidden because we don't see them. We don't day-to-day pay those costs of putting thousands, millions of people in prison. But those are costs that are borne by all of us, both in financial costs and in societal costs. I'd also like to speak as someone who personally has been affected by violence. Despite the blanket claims made by some of the previous commenters, I can actually have been a victim of violence and support restorative justice policies. Because I've seen myself that throwing people away, putting them in jail, does not stop violence. Imprisoning the perpetrator of violence would not have stopped violence from happening. It has happened, it had happened, and nor would it have healed any of the damage that was done. Instead, I suggest that we need to look deeper at the root of crime and really look at what causes these issues and address them with resources before they lead to violence. We need to act preventatively instead of reacting. And finally, I'd just like to note that this action is unprecedented and potentially could be seen as improperly political. As mentioned, the stated values of Los Angeles County voters were expressed through the ballot box, not only in the election of DA Gascon, but also in the passing of the Reimagine LA Measure J, which went along a similar line. So I do appreciate Councilmember Chavez's questions earlier. I thought they were very astute as to inquiring whether or not a proper proper research had been done into this report. I'd like to just again suggest that the vote of no confidence on an elected official does seem unprecedented and has been particularly pushed by the Office of Sheriff Alex Villanueva, whose Los Angeles Sheriff's Department has faced a number of high-profile scandals with reports calling for reforms of the gang-like behavior amongst its deputies.
Can I just going to stop you right there because thank you so much for your comments, but you've reached your 3 minutes.
All right, thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much for calling in. Do we have any other callers, Peggy?
There are other callers on the line. Let me ask them to unmute themselves and see if they'd like to speak.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist,
Yes.
the request was sent and I don't see them unmuting themselves.
Hello.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, can you?
Hi. Yeah, can I make a public comment?
Yes, can you state your name, please?
Okay. My name is Michelle Wu, a CPA in my Arcadia residence. And I'm here to say hello to the city council members and to Mr. William Mayor Wu. And the city of Arcadia has just become the 12th city to pass a resolution of no confidence in Los Angeles District Attorney 2 weeks ago. And as a citizen of San Gabriel Valley, I request Temple City to place a no confidence vote on today's agenda so that you will have a timely result for the residents. And I'm so proud of Temple City for opposing the marijuana facility in Monte Council meeting 3 years ago and setting up a good example for the neighboring cities to follow. So I appreciate your time and effort for the quality life for all of us in San Gabriel Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist, I do not see any new callers.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to close public comment and move to final questions and comments from our council members. Councilmember Chavez?
That was not mine. I don't know where that came from.
Ryan Cook?
Sorry.
Okay. Wow. Where do I start? You know, I'm probably going to ramble even more than I usually do. So that's a kind of a heads up. You know, I'd have to say that in the 12 years I've been on the city council, this is easily the most disturbing item that I've had to address personally. And that covers a lot of things that we've done as a city. And I say that because, as one of the speakers said earlier, this is an unprecedented move. And I struggled, I think, with the motivation, with the, arguments for, with the arguments against. I mean, I have in front of me about 5 pages of notes that I've taken and the research that I have done on this, because, and this is not a negative comment on staff, because I can understand that their report was, and I applaud them for it, was basically just to put the item before us and to basically state in neutral terms as they could, what this was all about. But I think it missed the mark. And the reason I say that is because as a city council, we normally debate policy issues. We look at the arguments for, we look at the arguments against, and then we try to make a intelligent, informed decision about what is best for Temple City, okay? Obviously, we are one city in a large county of 88 cities. How much our voice carries, I don't know. That's debatable, but obviously we like to think it does at times. We certainly have done a lot of things to make our city safer. And I want to preface all of this by saying that I am very proud of our sheriff's department and the deputies who serve us every day. I mean, they do an outstanding job. There's no question about it. And I know a lot of us on the council consider them friends, and we get close to them and we know that they're there and they care about the city tremendously. And so none of what I'm going to say is any reflection on them whatsoever. I mean, our neighborhood watch program is a light, a shining light in the San Gabriel Valley as far as what we do to protect our residents. And as we all know, in the safest cities review, I forget now what we call it, Brian probably can help me there, but we're consistently in the top of the safest cities, and that's no accident. Okay? We take this very seriously. And that's why when I saw this request for vote of no confidence in our district attorney, I thought to myself, wait a minute, what are we doing with this? And we we do what we can for our city, and we will continue doing that. And I know our sheriffs will as well. We've all heard the arguments in favor of the vote of no confidence. Of course, we've heard that, that those who are in favor of it disagree with the DA's criminal justice reform efforts, his commitment not to prosecute certain low-level offenses and not applying sentencing enhancements, things of that sort. The erosion of the quality of life arguments, the fact that perhaps he's acting unilaterally and overstepping his authority. And I understand all of that, okay? And the thing that strikes me the most, however, is this comment about soft on crime. As if anyone who is, let's say, against the vote of no confidence somehow is also soft on crime, which is so much further from the truth. Certainly we are not soft on crime. But, I hate, if we look back through history, this soft on crime narrative has always been used as a disguise to disguise, I think, racist policies, especially, recently with the huge increases of violence against Black, Brown, or Asian community. I mean, there's no question that, at least in my mind, that somehow we need to that we are soft on crime, because I don't think we are. Okay. So, those are the arguments primarily in favor of this vote of no confidence. But what struck me is who's out there, and I appreciate Ms. McKenzie for her comments, but what is the argument against this vote of no confidence? Because there has to be. I mean, in our democratic society, we should demand that, to know what are the arguments again. And I thank our city manager and our city attorney for their comments earlier about, some of the arguments that are against this vote of no confidence. There are a few others that I would like to highlight that I think haven't been discussed. One of these is that, historically, criminal prosecution, I think, has been shown that it's not always the best solution to every dispute. And, I was thinking about this today, and when I first started practicing law, I used to do some criminal defense work. And I consider district attorneys my friends, and we worked with them every day. But I was thinking about the fact that there are plea bargains every day in our courtrooms. There are plea bargains where someone is charged with very serious crimes, and they work a plea agreement with the district attorney and they walk, or they're sent home on probation. Where is the uproar there? Where's the policy issues there? But I kind of regress a little bit, but getting back to the arguments against, sometimes we've seen some of these criminal prosecutions do end up precluding people who, yes, have committed a crime, but, not that they're, entirely bad people, let's say, but maybe preclude them from future employment or housing opportunities, things like that. As was mentioned earlier, research has shown that crime victims do prefer policies of rehabilitation and alternatives to simply more punishment. And this so-called tough on crime policy of the 80s and 90s, especially Mr. Cooley coming on and giving his say in this thing, they were simply not effective. They were not effective. In my research today, before DA Gascon took office, violent crime was up 25%, in spite of the fact that LA County sent more people to prison per capita than 56 of the 58 California counties. So that alone tells you that this tough on crime administrations have failed and failed miserably. But what is the answer? Well, I believe that certainly if you have a disagreement with certain policies, or you have policy differences, okay, there are ways to attack that, okay? I'm not sure that this is the best way to do so. You know, for whatever Mr. Gascon is doing or holding himself out to be, and I'll have to say, I did not vote for him, but he was elected, okay? And he's doing what he said he was going to do. You know, the election is over and it's time to move on. But, oh, wait a minute. We've maybe forgotten some of that stuff in other government positions, perhaps. And I don't know if that's just the way our society has gone. We seem to be getting away from the democratic process, okay? And the democratic process is that, you know, we have election, people are elected into office. But saying that at the same point, I recognize the fact that we do have also the right to recall Mr. Gascon. And it's my understanding, and I could be incorrect, but it's my understanding that the recall has been approved and is underway. And that is the democratic process that we have in play to take care of these issues, okay? You know, should we support or oppose particular policies? Yes. But should we do it against individuals? I don't know that our system is made up that way, okay? You know, certainly the democracy that I grew up learning about wasn't that way. You know, and it's important to understand that this vote of no confidence, I think, is being pushed by the same group that was against the DA during the election, okay? And in fact, at least one of these cities has even voted no confidence in our city public health director, Barbara Ferrara. So sometimes these vote of no confidence, which are purely symbolic in nature, are simply a knee-jerk reaction to, you know, those who feel that they didn't get their way, okay? And so, you know, that's what concerns me here. You know, where is the discussion on the alternative actions? There has been none, okay? And I would like to point out too that in looking at some of this stuff, and I don't want to pick on Mr. Cooley, but he also has issued in his term over 20 special directives. So these special directives are not new to the office, okay? You know, it's interesting to note that people are making a big deal out of the fact that, well, this is some kind of new thing, a special directive. Wow, you know, how dare he do this? But DAs have been doing this for a long, long time. So, you know, I think our justice system needs reform. What is the best way of doing that? That's way beyond my pay grade. You know, but I do know that you know, those things need to be addressed. You know, I was thinking about this today, and I'm almost done, but, you know, I remember last summer where the city of Temple City had a rally for the Black Lives Matter, and I was never so proud of our city than on that day when we held a very, you know, we had a very good crowd attend, but everyone behaved themselves. The sheriffs were there. They were in the background. Nothing got out of control. We showed that there is a proper way of doing things. But when we do things like that, my question is, unless we follow it up with real reform, with real things that affect what that is all about, what was the use of it? Why did we do it? Okay. You know, it makes me wonder sometimes. Lastly, you know, I want to say that I respect the views of all our speakers. I know some of them personally, and I certainly respect your opinions and the right to give your opinions. You know, and I will never ever question that. I would like to say, however, that I think some of your facts may not have been totally correct. especially regarding the implications of Proposition 57, the fact that there's we're about to get an influx of violent felons literally let out in the streets. The last time I looked at Proposition 57, and again, I could be wrong, but I believe that applies only to non-violent felons. But, the bottom line for me here is that, we have a kind of a line drawn in the sand. We have law enforcement groups versus so-called justice reform groups. And it shouldn't have to be that way, okay? These groups should work together to figure out what is the best policy, what are the things that are gonna work. But again, I have faith in our democratic system, and these people did their job. They got a recall on, looks like it's gonna be on the ballot, and the voters will decide, and that's who should decide. But the thing that bothers me most, I think, of this vote of no confidence is that, at best, it's symbolic only. It doesn't carry any power. But at worst, what effect does it have on the voters? Okay, a voter could very well say, well, our city council voted no confidence, so I might as well vote the same way. And that's not the way our democratic system should work. We should all be informed as to what is the best for our communities and vote accordingly. I personally think that the impetus behind these votes of no confidence in the relatively few cities who have passed it is basically a ploy of those who are in favor of it, to add more, legitimacy, I guess, to it. But I don't know. To me, that doesn't sit well. And again, we have an elected official. Let our system handle it the way it was meant to be and the way it always has worked before. So again, I'm sorry for taking so long. As you can see, I've struggled with this, and I understand that taking this line, taking this view, is probably going to offend a lot of people in Temple City. Okay, but I think those who really know who I am know what I stand for, and simply because I'm not willing to go this particular route does not mean by any means that I am so-called soft on crime or don't have the support of our sheriffs, because that is completely wrong. But that be as it may, that's how I feel about the whole thing. So, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist, for allowing me to ramble on like more than I normally do. But with that, I'll turn the mic over to the rest.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez. Councilmember Mann?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. That's going to be a tough act to follow. But I appreciate Councilmember Chavez sharing his thoughts. I highly respect him for not just his law background, but his ability to say a lot of things that sometimes we are thinking of, but we don't have quite an elegant way of stating so. I will start by saying that when this issue was first brought to my attention, I was thinking along very similar lines to what Councilmember Chavez was just saying. I think that democratic process that we all adhere to, that we support, that we say is a mainstay of our government, that seems like something that's being challenged by a vote of no confidence. So in that sense, I shared initially the same feelings of, should we as a city council do something like this against specifically an elected official? And so I had some time to process that information. Sometimes you just can't help but see some of the news articles that are talking about this, especially with the number of cities that have passed a similar resolution in the last couple of weeks. And I think I would agree in principle that normally as a council, we would focus strictly on policy matters and not really direct our attention towards any particular individual. In the case of District Attorney Gascon, I think the argument behind this push of no confidence is that this individual has now become policy. And so the lines have been blurred. I mean, it's not like we're voting, stating our position on like Prop 47 or AB 109 or any of the multitude of state laws that have been passed in the last couple of years that in our discussions with our community members, we have seen what those can actually do. And what just happens is that the policy directives that the DEA is advocating for does directly impact the main quality of life issues that we as a council face on a daily basis. I mean, these are the things that our residents come to us and ask us to try to help them with. These are discussed at neighborhood watch meetings. These are reiterated ad nauseum by our dedicated deputies who serve in our city, who actually see these things happening, that actually see the effects of these policies. Now, granted, they are in a awkward position in that they can't, I haven't heard any of our deputies come out and take a stand on this. They try to navigate and stay neutral and try to do their job. But the reality is many of the quality of life issues that we face in Temple City is directly impacted by the directives. Now, one can argue that it's still too soon to see the effects of those policies. And I think that's why, to Councilmember Chavez's point, we're still ranked pretty high in the safest cities in California. Really, the thing is, if we're really asking for data, I don't think anyone really knows how much time it would take for reforms of this scale to really take effect. And what I hear from our residents and our constituents who have asked us for this agenda item is that they're not interested in seeing that social experiment unfold. And so I think to Councilmember Chavez's point that the whole recall effort is really the vehicle behind which that type of dissatisfaction is really going to occur. But from the residents that have reached out to me, I think this resolution is simply a symbolic way for us as a council to demonstrate that we hear the voices of those who live in Temple City, who don't like the direction that this DEA is going. Now, on a bigger picture scale, I mean, again, people argue that, well, he was elected by California voters, and the express interests of the voters should be respected. I agree. The thing is, California is a huge state, and so for a city of our size, it could easily feel like our voices aren't really heard on the larger scale. And so while I agree that at the end of the day, whatever direction we as a council take, whether this resolution actually passes or not, if this resolution does pass, do I see District Attorney Gascon really changing his practices? I don't think so. I think based on, if you follow his platform and his news throughout his campaign up to his election, at least this is my opinion, I get the sense that he came into office thinking he has a mandate for this type of reform. And I think that's what irks a lot of folks. Councilmember Chavez mentioned that, we should all work together. to figure out what those policies are and move forward in that direction. And I think from a public safety standpoint, this argument has been gone over many, many times in decades. There is no consensus. There is no consensus. There's all the data that, I mean, it really depends on what your ultimate goal is. I mean, for me, the way I would sum it up is, while I can understand Gascon's policies and his attempt at reforming the overall criminal justice system, and what I would also call a pretty big problem of mass incarceration, at a local level, we have to look at the lens very differently. Because I would say that Gascon is trying to achieve criminal justice reform at the expense of cities like us. And as an elected official, that is something I cannot accept. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mann. Councilmember Viscara.
Well, first of all, whatever we do is symbolic, and I hate to say it, but almost meaningless. But it does send a message that as leaders of the city, we do have a view. I've been around a long time. I was around when Reagan was in office. During that time, I worked for the California Youth Authority, and which doesn't exist anymore, but it was where juveniles were sent. It was juvenile jail is what it was. And I was a paroled person, and I had to make recommendations as to whether or not these young men, because it was all men, were ready to re-enter society, or should they serve more time? And, you never really knew. The recidivism rate back then was at 67%. I think it's exactly the same right now, that it's a revolving door, except there's more of them, but then the population is a heck of a lot bigger. My feeling is that somebody like the previous DA and other DAs were simply holding the line. And they are fighting larger social ills that we sure as heck can't have any effect on. There's the huge discrepancy in wages. The CEOs that are making gazillions of dollars and paying their employees minimum wage or a little bit better, just something to get by. How do we change that? I don't know how that's ever going to change, and I think that leads to continuing problems of inequality, and without getting into racism and everything else that we have to deal with. I feel, well, let me cut it shorter. I did not vote for Gascon, and I think with good reason. I think the previous DA did an acceptable job. Decisions were made that I could understand, and in other municipalities, they're being made, but they're not. Those municipalities, those cities, those counties are not having to deal with an increase in crime. God, I hate using that term even. But nevertheless, that is what we're looking at. And so whether we go forth with this no confidence vote and support the recall, the only difference is it's not what we do isn't going to make any difference. The recall effort will make a difference. So I guess we're sending the message, as I think Councilmember Mann said, and I think Tom did too, that we're telling the residents who listen to us and know us, we're telling them that, gee, we're on the city council and we think this should happen. Well, if that's what you think, then that's what we'll do. So that's it. That's about as much effect as we're going to have on anything that happens to Mr. Gascon, whether he's recalled or not. So as you can see, I'm kind of muddled here. I'm starting to ramble like Councilmember Chavez was. And nevertheless, I'm torn, but I do have, I guess, a mission of trying to protect this city. And my decision will be based on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's everyone, right? Except me. Yep. If you recall, prior to, I believe, I'm not sure if, I don't believe Councilmember Bhaskara was on, but Councilmember Mann would have been when we took a vote to financially support a coalition that started with, I believe, Oliver Chi from the city of Monrovia. Is that correct, Brian? He took the lead in forming this coalition of San Gabriel Valley cities, and we voted to support it. And it was all about a certain bill. I forget the number of it. Maybe our city attorney can recall what that number was, but it was to stop the early release of those who were incarcerated. Do you recall what that number was? Maybe Tom, you remember, if anybody else doesn't?
Well, I do remember it. Frankly, I don't know that anything ever came of it.
It didn't. It fell apart, actually.
But I don't know if it had to do, Greg, was that part of the Prop 57 argument, maybe?
I believe it was, yes.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think the argument was it was a coalition that was against Prop 57 that would have released, prisoners from state prisons after they've served their original sentence. And I believe that the coalition was set up to, against that, of course. But as we all know, Prop 57 did pass. And although truthfully, it hasn't really been implemented that much, contrary to the statements made by those against it, there hasn't been a floodgate of violent felons let out onto the streets.
Right, but my point is that at that time when we had those discussions, we made a decision to support the fact that our community wasn't really happy with that proposition moving forward, and we did take a stand. And it was, I think, at the time difficult because there were so many different implications that, had to do that if you keep people, let people out on the streets sooner than what was their original sentence. Was that going to increase homelessness? So it's all a very complicated process that is in place, I think. But anyway, I do understand or I don't know if I understand it as well as Tom does, but I do really feel that moving in the direction that so many have spoke to, that it really does undermine democracy to some degree. He was democratically elected, and he's really doing what he said he was going to do, and that was to reform what was going on with the jail system and those who were incarcerated. And I think at that time he did speak to the voters. I recall being, somewhat perplexed at the way that the argument for him was. It wasn't as clear, and I should have probably followed through more with, what it said. But I do have, with that being said, I do feel that as a representative that has been elected, just like Gascon, to their constituents, is that we do have an obligation to listen to what our community wants. And I think that our community has pretty much spoken loud and clear, not just on the emails that have been sent, but phone calls that probably have been made to all of you. And although it's a symbolic resolution, I think there is a message, like Councilmember Viscara said, that we are not willing to compromise what our community wants. And I think that Gascon, in his current advocacy for reform and the way that it's being done, has left our community with a lot of fear, with a lot of anger. And I think we, as Temple City's elected representatives, have a responsibility to work on alleviating the fear and the anger to whatever degree we can do that. Of course, you can't always make everyone happy in your community. But I think at this point in time, although I struggled like you, Tom, with, does this undermine our democracy? To some extent, yes, I do believe it does. But I remember in our own city when we felt that elected officials in leadership positions, it was a much greater degree, but at the time we really didn't know, because everybody's innocent till proven guilty. Many of us on the council took this stand and said, we don't want this person and what they represent to be a leader in this city. And I think I thought a lot about that also. And, I just really feel that we need to listen to what the majority of our constituents say. I totally respect the young lady who called in and, shared her feelings. Incarceration is not the answer to, making all communities safer. Rehabilitation is. And I only wish to encourage all these peoples and city councils in all these cities that have taken a stand of no confidence, really work to figure this out. How are we going to rehabilitate? Especially when you have those low-level misdemeanors. I mean, those are the people that, yes, you don't really want them to serve long terms in prison, because that can affect future employment. And if they are not employed, they can become homeless. So it's a vicious cycle. So I would just encourage people to be as passionate about what we can do to rehabilitate people with mental health programs, and start there to really, everybody get on board that those are the issues. Those are the things that are going to make communities safer. Is we need to rehabilitate these people, not, just say that locking them up for a long time. But now I sound like a rambling rose. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. And I really feel that we need to do what our community is asking of us at this time. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist, can I just say one really quick thing?
Yeah.
just to get back on that stand that we took on the policy, the Prop 57. And I believe I agreed with the rest of the council that we do need to take a stand regarding how Proposition 57 was going to be implemented. And I still agree with the stand that we took. But the difference for me was that was a stand against a policy decision and not against an individual. And I think that's the main difference and the main heartache that I have here regarding, the message that we're sending. And I completely respect what all my colleagues have said, and I don't necessarily disagree, because I think this is one of those issues that there is no correct answer. You go the way you feel and the way you want to vote. And I would just urge everyone out there to have confidence in our democratic system, to become informed and knowledge and acquire the knowledge to make the decision regarding this recall petition, which obviously is going to move forward. And that is how our system will work and is designed to work. And so, as I said, I think that is what will be the ultimate outcome. And as Council Member Vizcarra said, what will happen will happen. Okay. And what we do here tonight, obviously, is a decision that we all have to make on our own. But at the same time, as I always do, urge voters to stay informed, to look at the issues and look at them neutrally and decide what is the best thing. And of course, based on facts, not speculation or fear or any of those things that you hear out there. Get the facts from somebody you trust. I believe that's the best thing to do. Thank you, and I want to thank all of you for your comments. I think you guys have done a great job. So.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Chavez. Can we get a council motion? Would anybody like to entertain one?
Yeah, sure. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll move that we adopt resolution number 21-5530, expressing a vote of no confidence in LA County District Attorney George Gascon.
I'll second that.
Okay, may we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Chavez,
No.
Councilmember Mann,
Yes.
Councilmember Vizcarra,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist.
Yes. Okay, this is one of those instances where I wish I worked for the county in Mr. Yu's position. Okay, can we have our city clerk text Mayor Yu and let him know that he's back on running the meeting?
Will do.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to talk with Greg, but I've never heard of a common law conflict, but I suppose there is one. I didn't know that we still recognize common law in California. That's I don't remember that from law school. Thought we were a statutory law state, but maybe we do recognize some common laws. At least our legal system is based on common law, but I didn't know that we adopted common law as our own, but I could be incorrect there.
I will happily talk with you about that, sir. More.
And I was hoping for an attorney exemption, but I guess that didn't work either. So I guess I would have had to have been a DA to get out of this one. So
that would have done it.
For the record, Mayor Yu, for the record, Mayor Yu, camera was off and his microphone was muted during the entire discussion and vote of the last item. So welcome back, Mayor Yu.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I've been listening to all the discussions and like, unfortunately, I really could not offer any opinion on it because I definitely am conflicted on so many of these discussions in the past and currently with the current projects that I have. So moving on to the next item, and which is item 11, is update from Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Yu. I'll be brief tomorrow. For the members of the public, tomorrow At 7:30, the council will consider and discuss as in a study session format the budget for fiscal year 21-22. We'll have ended the year as Susan Pagaras, our Administrative Services Director, noted at our third quarter budget adjustment, that we'll be ending with a surplus. It's in the public record right now, but we have a very, very extremely rounding error surplus going in, essentially a balanced budget down to the penny. So we'll talk about that in more detail tomorrow. As we continue to get more appointments and move forward, we look forward to safely moving forward as a city. But again, health order and the health order from the county and the state are still what we're going by on a go forward basis, and as those adjust over time. At this point, we will not be doing any other vaccination clinics. The last one we had about a week and a half ago will be the last one we'll do at Live Oak Park at this point, unless demand starts to pick up, especially for if the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are approved for under 12 years of age. We'll look to maybe assist the school district or others in providing Live Oak Park as a site as well in the future.
You know, I don't know if you saw, Brian, I don't know if you saw, there was an email sent out by the superintendent today that, I don't know if they're partnering or somebody's partnering with Herald Christian to provide vaccinations for children's 12 and over, and they sent it out to their parents of Temple City School District.
I didn't see that. I didn't know that Herald Christian Health Center was in contact with the school district, as they have been prior as well when they vaccinated many of their faculty and staff. But that's great. I'm glad they're still, I know they were still willing to assist on a limited basis. It's going to be just a little bit different than the vaccination clinics you've seen over the last couple of months. So that is it for tonight for me, Mary. You short report. You're on mute, sir. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Mr. City Manager. And the next item is update from Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to give a longer update on Senate Bills 9 and 10 tonight, but in light of the fact that Management Analyst Tinny Chen will be presenting those to you for a more vigorous discussion at your next meeting, I'm going to let that go tonight and simply weigh in next time when you'll be asked to discuss. And I'll say simply that, much like the city manager, our office is anxiously awaiting word from the governor as to which of the emergency orders are going to expire on June 15th and what that means for city operations and legal operations in general. So hopefully, because we'll be on the 15th at our next meeting, I'll be able to give you a thorough update on that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. Next item is council report regarding ad hoc or standing committee meetings. Are there any reports?
Yes, Mayor Yu, I'd like to report out on the Facilities Public Works Standing Committee.
Yes, please.
So, yeah, Mayor Yu and I are part of the Facilities, Public Works, and Infrastructure Standing Committee meeting we had last week regarding schemes Primrose Park. And I'm happy to report that staff and our consultants have brought back a color scheme that is in line with what council had provided. It is so true to the red theme that was originally developed by the architect. And this is primarily has to do with the playground equipment. And the other thing that we also went over, some color schemes for some of the exercise equipment, which before was more monochromatic. There was more of an inclusion of color into the playground. And I'll also just add a unsolicited remark for Mayor Yu. been a pleasure working with him on these types of projects because with his architect background, he does provide a lot of insight on things from the aesthetic side, which me as an engineer sometimes I don't quite grasp that as well as he does. He'll claim that he's a project manager, he's a designer at heart. But Mayor Yu, if there's anything if you could fill in.
Yeah, I think, well, thank you, Councilmember Mann. I think the main thing to report out is that there's a time schedule to order the exercise equipment. So we were able to, I think Councilman Mann and I were able to fulfill what the council's directive on bringing back more colors. And we're able to allow the contractor and Mr. Ali Kayak to order the material on time according to the schedule. So we'll be discussing upcoming the color scheme for the shade structures. So we'll be working on that next. So I guess that concludes our report on this item. Are there any other committee report from council? Okay, seeing none, then I'll move on to council items separate from the city manager's regular agenda, starting with Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you, Mayor Yu. I just want to report out that the youth committee actually had its last meeting of the year last week, concluding their work for this year, and was like to report that it was a good year for them, a difficult, obviously, as we all know, with the pandemic issues to deal with, but overall they did a great job. Received special recognition from Senator Rubio's office for their work on mental awareness for the youth. So that was a good feather in their cap. And so we are sending off 4 seniors this year. 2 are going to UCLA, 1 is going to UC Davis, and 1 is going to, gosh, I forget the name, maybe Greg can help me with it. It's the Art and Science Institute of Pasadena. Very famous.
Art Center College of Design.
Right, very highly rated school. And so obviously a good group of seniors we're saying goodbye to. We have 2 returning members for next year, and so we have quite a few shoes to fill. We have opened the application process. We received 13 applications for new members, and we will start to go through those and conduct interviews in the near future and get together our new youth committee for 21-22. So I want to thank all the council and our staff for their support of the youth committee. In their final statements, they all had great things to say about the support that they received from everyone, and very appreciative of that as well. So I want to thank all of you on behalf of the youth committee, and of course a big shout out to both Jillian and to Peggy for all the work that they've done in making sure that group stays together. So other than that, that's it for tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Of course, great shout out to you yourself, Councilmember Chavez, for leading the youth committee, for many years. So next we want to go to Councilmember Mann.
Thank you, Mayor. You don't have much, but I do want to just take this moment to, I think Mr. Jambazian alluded to it in the invocation earlier tonight. I do want to extend our heartfelt condolences and prayers and support for the shooting at the Agua Dulce fire station earlier this morning. It's a senseless tragedy that I know it's an ongoing investigation, but LA County Fire being part of the Temple City, it hits us. It hits us hard. To lose someone like that in that fashion is heartbreaking. I can't imagine the tragedy that the families are going through. And also we hope the injured fire captain who is hospitalized makes a full recovery. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mann and Councilmember Viscara.
You're muted, sir.
Unmute.
Councilmember Viscara, you're on mute.
Yeah, I just realized that. Earlier, I had a meeting before this meeting, which was with Kiwanis, and Ed Jen was there to talk about the upcoming change in our trash service. And as always, he gave a very good report, and it was well received. And in fact, it clarified some things for me. So that'll help to get the word out to people also. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sternquist.
Yes. I just would like to ask if we could get our communications team working on some of the same issues we had a couple years back when we were in the middle of a drought. It looks like we are going to be experiencing that again, and we've had a very dry winter. So if we could get ahead of the game a bit and start pulling out some of those banners we use to conserve water, Brian, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but just get them out there again and put them on our website. That would be really helpful. Brian Irizumi sent us the new update. He's done an excellent job of sending that out religiously to us every single night, including the weekends. And as difficult as it is to say, there were 3 new deaths today and 108 new confirmed cases. I mean, that's the lowest numbers that we've experienced yet. And I think when we get to a day with 0 deaths, which looks like we might be there pretty soon, I think we can all, say a prayer and celebrate, thank God, and, hope that our county continues to stay on that same path. I can't urge people enough to get vaccinated and take advantage of all the vaccination clinics that are available. And now that I believe it's 12 and over is now ready to be vaccinated. I encourage all of you to speak to your children's doctors in regards to giving you a comfort level, or if there's any health conditions, to talk to them regarding the vaccination. But encourage every adult that's healthy and recommended to take that shot from a doctor to please go and get one. There was, one other thing I wanted, or 2 other things. With having a very dry winter, we have a real challenge for wildfires, and 4th of July is just around the corner. And we had a fire in Temple City last year with fireworks. So I would like to, do whatever we can, and hopefully maybe start next week to put that 4th of July firework banner up that talks about the fines that we have in place, and just really do whatever we can to start educating the public that illegal fireworks are not going to be tolerated in Temple City. And I believe when we did approve this back in February, we were hoping that we'd have some more rain, and we didn't get it. So if we can work on publicizing that, Brian, that would be very helpful. And then one other thing that I think would be helpful for Athens in getting people to sign up for the size of trash cans they want. Like, I've done it twice where you go on to, they send you a little, I guess the website link, and then you go on and you put all your name in and everything. And then guess what it tells you? Now you need your account number for your trash service in order to finish the registration process. So I ran downstairs to try and find an account number from a past bill, got it, and when I came up, I was knocked out of the system. And then other things came up and I forgot all about it. And then I did it again and I didn't have the trash. I forgot that you need to have your trash account with you when you register. So if they could just in the beginning post, before you put in all your information, you're going to need to have your account, or else people are going to be frustrated because they're going to have to go dig up their account, and then potentially you can get booted out if it takes too long. So that might be helpful to let people, for Athens, on their link, let people know that they need to have their account number before they fill out all the other information. And I think that's it. So thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And again, I want to emphasize that thank you so much for running that rather controversial item today. And I really appreciate everybody, even though I really cannot say anything about it. But I also want to express my gratitude to all the public comments a lot of people wrote in. And even though I couldn't say anything, couldn't show my face, I was actually listening in the background. But a lot of things that's been said has to do with my daily work. Measure J, restorative justice, care first, jail last. Unfortunately, those things have to do with my daily routine at the county. So I really could not really comment on any of that. But actually to Mayor Pro Tem's point, thank you for pointing out on Athens, I believe, and Mr. City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have people that do not register would by default get 64-gallon carts. So I'm the one that have chosen to try the 64-gallon. So so if you have chosen 64, then you don't have to do anything. But so
I think I need the bigger one.
Yeah, but that's a very good point that you pointed out. So with that, I will.
Mayor, you I forgot something I was
Chavez.
I'm sorry, I forgot something I was going to share. Since we were proponents of the Ring device system through the city, I think we need to make our residents aware of the fact that Amazon, I don't know if some of you have heard of this, but Amazon is launching something called Sidewalk, which is a shared network that will connect Amazon-enabled smart devices, which include the Ring security systems. And according to Amazon, it's supposed to be a secure thing, but it's basically going to allow users to have a small portion of their bandwidth with other Amazon customers, enabling neighboring devices to connect at long range. And I think there's a concern about the security of that. And so I would like people to understand that you can turn off this Amazon Sidewalk. It's going to go into effect automatically without your say-so on June 8th, which is a week from today. And if you don't turn it off, then you will be sharing some of your information with other people. Supposedly security free, but you know how that goes. So word of caution, I think, to everybody. And I don't think, and the only reason it came to my attention is because somebody brought it to my attention a couple of days ago. Otherwise, I had never heard of it. And of course, Amazon is not sending anything out. These are on you can get this online, and CBS News is running an article on it as well. But it's called Amazon Sidewalk, and it's going to debut on June 8th. And you're going to have it by default if you've got any of those Amazon devices, like what is that one that we talked to, Alexa, okay, or Ring Security, or Echo Dot, those things. So yeah, my Alexa just responded because I mentioned her name. But anyway, you got to be careful.
Because you mentioned her name. She's talking.
You see how sensitive they are? So
I have two of them.
Well, you gotta if you don't want to go, if you don't want to share your information with neighbors, you may want to go to Amazon's. You have to go to the settings on your Amazon iPhone or your Android device, and then go to the Amazon Sidewalk tap, or you tap on it, and you're supposed to be able to slide it to the off position. But whether you want to do that or not, of course, is up to you. But I think to me, that's kind of scary, to be honest with you. And I got a little concern about that, but just to bring that to the public's attention.
Councilmember Chavez, so does it mean that if somebody has a camera pointing to the backyard, somebody else can read it? Can
Well,
see what's in your backyard?
no, you're not. It says that it's not supposed to share, applications and things like that. And it cannot be used to spy on other Amazon users or anything like that. But, obviously Amazon is taking the high road and saying, no worries, that we're going to protect your privacy. But we've all heard that story before. So take it with a grain of salt.
Well, thank you. That's useful information. I'll check it out. Yeah, thank you. So moving on to the next item, we will recess to the successor agency, to the Temple City Community Development Agency meeting. I'll read the preamble again. So I'll call the successor agency to the Temple City Community Redevelopment Agency special meeting for June 1st to order. And so anybody who is interested can call in telephonically or by email. So Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you. Agency Member Chavez,
Here.
Agency Member Mann,
Here.
Agency Member Vizcarra,
Here.
Vice Chair Sternquist,
Here?
for you.
Here. Actually, I just lost my internet connection, but I'm still connected by phone. So for those calling in, your audio will be unmuted during public comment. And you can also email your request to speak to City Clerk at templecity.us right now and indicate on the subject line the item you wish to provide comment. So are there any
Those on it.
callers for this item for public comment?
There's another 10.
There's one caller, Mr. Janbazian, and I had requested him to wishes to speak.
Okay, Mr. Jermaine, do you want to speak on this item, on any item concerning the successor agency? Hearing none, I will close public. Well, actually, public comment is actually item 7, so I'm out of order, actually. I'll move to consent calendar first. All consent calendar items may be approved in a single motion as recommended.
Motion to approve?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Agency Member Chavez,
Yes.
Agency Member Mann,
Yes.
Agency Member Vizcarra,
I think Member Vizcarra just stepped out a little bit. Maybe we go to
I think he's on
Vice
break.
Chair.
I think he's on break.
Said he needed a break.
Vice Chair Sternquist,
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Shucks.
Chair you.
Yes.
I would make a motion to excuse Council Member Vizcarra from this action. Greg, is that okay?
Second.
Well,
He's back.
sorry, maybe it's my internet connection, but I couldn't hear what Mr. Murphy has to say.
Sorry, sir. Yes, I said to Mr. Chavez, yes, no problem to excuse Councilmember Vizcarra from the last action. I think you're just fine. Thank you.
Sorry, it was an emergency.
Understood. Understood. No problem. We actually just have taken a vote to pass the consent calendar. Agency member Viscara. So the consent calendar has carried. Next item is unfinished business. There is none. New business. There is none. Communications. There is none. And now we're come back to public comments. I was out of order before. So now the successor agency will now hear public comments. And for those calling in, the audio will now be unmuted. And also we will also reach email. Madam Clerk, are there any callers or emails?
The only caller is Jerry Jambazian.
Okay, I will, Mr. Jamasian, you're not making a comment, right?
No, there was no comment. I'm sorry. I don't know how that got there.
Okay, thank you. I will close public comments. Next item is update from Executive Director and Agency Counsel.
There is none, Mayor Yu.
And Counsel?
No redevelopment updates, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Matters from agency members? Seeing none, we move on to adjournment, and we will now return to regular city council meeting. And item 16 is additional public comments on item not listed. The city council will now hear additional public comments, and for those calling in, your audio will now be unmuted, and we will also read your email if you send an email to us. Mr. Jambazian, you want to address the council at this time? No, I guess not. I guess, Madam Clerk, are there any emails addressing the council at this point?
No, Mayor.
Okay, and hearing that, I will close public comments. So we are now adjourned. So we will see you tomorrow night at the budget special meeting. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night. Bye.